Hey guys, tonight we drift into the soft, uncertain light of an ancient Roman dawn into a narrow street where the air still holds the coolness of night, and where the towering shape of a creaking, crowded apartment building rises in front of you like a sleepy giant. This isn't the Rome of emperors and monuments. It is the Rome of ordinary people families stacked above one another in wooden rooms that tilt and groan, in hallways dark enough that you feel your way more than you walk. And as you stand before this insula, you sense immediately why a modern person might not last a day here. Everything is closer, louder, rawer, and far more fragile than you expect. Before we begin, I'd love it if you could share in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always comforting to see our little nighttime map quietly glowing from all around the world. And if calm, practical history helps you unwind, a subscribe and like genuinely helps more people find this. Now, take a breath. Let your shoulders drop. Imagine the air cooling around you until it feels like dawn 2,000 years ago. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the foot of the Insula, its walls a patchwork of tired bricks and faded plaster, its wooden balconies jutting out at odd angles, as if the building grew in restless sleep. Even in this early hour, the structure seems to sway slightly in the breeze, not enough to alarm you, but enough to remind you that Roman apartments were built quickly, cheaply, and often with more hope than engineering. Your fingers brush the outer wall, and it's cool, almost damp, as if the night still clings to it. The street around you is barely waking. A cart rattles far off. A dog noses through yesterday's discarded vegetable peels. A shutter slaps softly against its frame in the faint wind. High above, a woman clears her throat, followed by the shuffle of bare feet across wooden planks. Life in an insula starts early, not with sunlight, but with sound. Your bare feet touch the uneven stones as you step closer. The doorway is low, and when you push inside, the temperature drops at once. Roman buildings trap night air the way cloth traps scent. The coolness pools around your ankles like a gentle tide. Inside, a narrow hallway stretches into dimness, lit only by a dying oil lamp perched on a crooked ledge. Its flame flickers while your eyes adjust. You pause, letting the quiet settle into your chest. From somewhere above, a soft cough, a faint clatter, a whispered argument, more frustration than anger, the unmistakable whimper of a child waking too soon. Already you feel immersed in the heartbeat of this place. You begin to climb the first set of stairs. They're steep, more like a ladder in places, and each step creaks under even your careful weight. The wood has worn into shallow dips where thousands of feet have pressed, risen, pressed again. Your hand trails along the wall rough, slightly gritty, cool, and you breathe in the scent of old timber, oil smoke, and the faint lingering aroma of last night's dinner drifting down from the upper floors. On the first landing, a door sits slightly ajar. Through the thin slit, you glimpse a tiny glow, a single lamp, burning low on a small table. Someone is already awake. You hear the rhythmic scrape of mortar against pestle, grain being ground by hand, the slow repetition that marks the beginning of every Roman day. You continue upward, letting the sound fade behind you. The second floor smells different, warmer somehow. Someone kept a brazier burning late, and the scent of charred pine resin hangs in the air. The wood beneath your feet feels softer here, slightly springy, as if tired from decades of holding up those above it. You hear a woman humming softly, a tune with no real melody, just an instinctive comfort passed through generations. The insula groans. A long, slow creak runs through the beams above your head. Not threatening, just part of the building's natural language. You feel it vibrate faintly through your fingertips, where they rest on the railing. The Romans who lived here trusted that groan the way sailors trust the creak of a ship as hull, an old, familiar voice. You climb to the third floor, and the air shifts again. A little warmer, a little closer, a little more human. This is where you will spend your day. You step into a corridor so narrow that your shoulder nearly brushes the opposite wall. A plaster here is cracked, revealing a spiderweb of wood and reed beneath. A sliver of morning light falls across the floor, where a shutter has been opened just an inch. Your room is small. One door, one shuttered window. A straw mattress tucked into the corner. A wooden stool that wobbles on uneven legs. A jug of water left from yesterday's trip to the cistern. You step inside. The air carries the scent of old straw, warmed by countless bodies before you. There is a shallow bowl on the floor. Someone's leftover grain porridge hardened into a thin crust. You press your palm against the wall. It feels alive, still whispering with the echoes of the rooms around it. Through the plaster you sense footsteps, soft and rhythmic, belonging to someone rising for the day. You sense the faint vibration of something dropped in the room next door. You feel the breath of a breeze pushing against the shutter. Everything is close here. Everything touches everything. You walk to the small window and slide the shutter open with care. Cool dawn air pours in, brushing your cheeks, carrying with it the scent of baking bread from the street below, a sweetness layered with smoke. Outside, the city brightens slowly. You see rooftops embroidered with laundry lines, pigeons pecking at crumbs, a shopkeeper lifting his heavy wooden bar to open his storefront. Rome is waking. You sit on the straw mattress, feeling it shift beneath your weight. It crackles softly, the stalks bending to cradle you. The sound is oddly soothing, like whispering parchment or rustling reeds. You take a breath and let your body lean back, palms resting on the rough fabric of the blanket. For a moment, it's enough just to sit, to watch dust motes drift in the shaft of early light, to hear neighbors moving in a symphony of small, unpolished sounds, to feel the Insula breathe slowly around you. But in ancient Rome, comfort rarely lasts long. A voice calls from down the hallway, a man summoning his child. A pot lid slams. A child whines. Someone laughs. The entire building awakens in layers, like a great animal stretching itself awake. You step back into the corridor. The wood floor is warmer now beneath your feet, warmed by bodies, breath, and the faint stroke of sunlight creeping inside. A family on your left emerges from their room, father first, and mother, then a girl rubbing sleep from her eyes. They nod politely as they pass, balancing jars and baskets for the day's chores. You follow at a distance as they descend the stairs. The building creaks again under the shared weight of its inhabitants. You trail your fingers along the wall, feeling the vibrations of footsteps through the structure, like heartbeats traveling through bone. On the first floor, the smell of heating oil touches your senses, sharp, warming, familiar even across centuries. A neighbor fans a small flame beneath a pot, stirring something thick and fragrant. Breakfast in an insula is modest. Bread softened with wine, porridge, olives, perhaps a bit of cheese if the household is fortunate. You step outside onto the street once more, and the light has changed. Sunrise has finally broken over the rooftops, sending warm, golden light spilling across uneven cobblestones. Vendors begin setting up their stalls. A child carries a basket of figs. A pair of mules clop past, harness bells jingling softly. And behind you, the insula stands tall, creaking, breathing, waking, alive. You take a slow breath, feeling the space around you expand. The day in ancient Rome has only begun, and already you understand why living here would be hard. Not because of danger, but because everything here demands your presence, your patience, your senses, your steady acceptance of closeness. But for tonight, drifting through this world like a soft dream, you're safe, you're warm, you're drifting deeper into Rome's morning heartbeat. And the story continues. You feel as though you're walking into the ribcage of some great wooden creature, one that breathes and crackles and sighs. its spine made of beams that strain but endure. The first floor corridor is narrow and dim, lit only by whatever sunlight filters through distant cracks. You begin ascending again, wanting to settle into the space that will serve as your temporary home for the day. Your bare feet press softly into the worn edges of each step. The wood shifts beneath you, not dangerously, but closely speaking its own language in faint groans and subtle vibrations. You grip the railing as you move upward, feeling its age in the softened ridges beneath your fingertips. On the second floor, the air smells faintly of damp wool drying on a line. Someone rinsed a tunic earlier and hung it near the stairwell, and now the moisture perfumes the corridor with a mild, earthy coolness. A door opens just ahead of you, and a woman steps out holding a clay cup. She offers you a small nod. Romans live close enough that greetings become reflexive, and then she takes a sip before disappearing down the hall. You continue upward. When you reach the third floor, the hallway feels warmer than before. People have begun kindling small braziers for the morning meal, and the heat from them seeps into the plaster, softening the air. You hear the gentle clang of metal against metal from one apartment, a mother knocking a cooking pot into readiness. From another, the scrape of a wooden ladle. From yet another, the rhythmic thump of kneading dough on a low table. The smells layer over one another. Grain roasting lightly, oil warming in a shallow pan, the faint sweetness of figs sliced for breakfast. Nothing here is strong enough to overwhelm. It's more like an early morning tapestry, woven from countless tiny threads. You pass your own doorway, but do not enter yet. Instead, you walk toward the far end of the corridor, where a small opening in the wall allows air to circulate. You lean against the plaster and watch the world unfold below. The sunlight grows bolder, warming the rooftops until they glow in soft terracotta hues. Smoke from a baker's oven curls upward, catching the rising wind. You see children skipping across the stones, their laughter bright and careless. A man with a broom sweeps the space outside his shop with the practiced efficiency of someone who has done this every day for decades. Life in Rome never truly sleeps, it just dims itself until morning returns. You take another breath, feeling your body settle more deeply into this ancient rhythm. Your senses sharpen. The texture of the wall against your palm, the distant call of a vendor testing his voice for the day, the subtle shift in temperature with every breath of air that moves through the corridor. Eventually, you return to your room. You push the door open and step inside. The straw mattress is undisturbed, except for your earlier imprint. A small clay jug sits near the stool, filled from the cistern the day before. You lift it and feel the coolness radiating through your hands. Roman water never stays cool for long indoors, so this little pocket of chill feels almost luxurious. You pour a small amount into the basin and splash your face. The shock wakes your senses fully. The droplets cling to your skin for a moment before sliding onto the rough fabric of your tunic. You sit on the mattress again and really listen to the building. You hear footsteps overhead, then silence, then a muffled thud, then a child's voice rising in playful protest. You hear a broom swishing on the floor above your head. You hear a faint argument break out, then resolve itself. You hear dishes clink softly in a neighboring room. It's impossible to live here without hearing your neighbors. Impossible not to feel their presence. This intimacy, this constant awareness, would exhaust many modern people. But in this moment, it feels gentle, almost comforting. You reach for a small piece of stale bread left from yesterday. It has hardened overnight, but Romans often soften bread with water or wine, or simply chew patiently. You dip the bread lightly into a few drops of water from your jug, just enough to loosen its edges. The taste is simple, a mixture of grain and dryness, but it grounds you. In a world without screens, without alarms, without electronic buzzes or pings, breakfast begins with the senses instead of with notifications. The taste, the smell, the warmth of your room, These things become the cues that morning has arrived. After eating, you decide to explore. You step out into the hallway and walk toward the stairs. The building feels fuller now, voices rising, footsteps echoing, doors opening and closing with soft wooden taps. You descend one level to the second floor, where several families live in slightly larger rooms. These apartments always feel warmer, closer to the heart of the building's daily life. A family is preparing their morning meal in the corridor itself. The mother crouches beside a small brazier, warming a mixture of lentils and herbs in a clay pot. The smell is rich and savory, drifting through the hall in pleasant, slow-moving curls. Her son, perhaps 8 years old, sits beside her plucking tiny stones from a basket of dried pulses, an early morning chore his fingers perform with practiced ease. You pause and watch, not intruding, simply observing. The woman glances up at you, briefly, her face open, unbothered. She nods once, then returns to stirring her pot. You feel the warmth of the brazier on your skin, a soft radiance that contrasts with the coolness of the stairwell behind you. A man emerges from a doorway, carrying a coil of rope and a wooden bucket. He greets the family with a quiet mien, "Good morning," and heads for the stairs. You follow him downward out of curiosity. On the first floor, near the central courtyard, the cistern lid sits open. Water glimmers faintly in the dimness below as the man lowers his bucket. The rope creaks, the bucket splashes, and he lifts it with a grunt. Water sloshes over the rim as he hauls it onto the stone ledge. He fills his household jars one by one, using a carved wooden ladle, methodically, without rush. You stand off to the side, letting him work. The sound of water echoes beautifully in the narrow space, cool, rhythmic, ancient. Fetching water would exhaust many modern tenants, but here it is as natural as brushing teeth. The Insula has no running water, no pipes. Every drop must be carried, poured, stored. As you watch him pour, you realize how much time in the ancient world was spent simply managing basic needs. When he's finished, the man nods toward you, a silent acknowledgement of shared space, and carries his jars upstairs, the weight balanced across his shoulders. You decide to take one of the smaller communal jars and lower it yourself. The rope feels coarse under your fingers. The bucket dips. The water ripples, silvery and cool. You haul it up, muscles tightening, breath steadying. Even this small task feels grounding. You fill a small jar and return upstairs, moving slowly to avoid spilling any water. Every drop has value. Every drop is work. Back in your room, you place the jar near your stool and sit once more on the mattress. The building is fully awake now. You feel its pulse around you. You feel the morning settling into long, steady rhythms. The sunlight passes through your shutter at an angle, touching the edges of your straw mattress. Dust motes dance slowly in the golden beam, rising and falling in lazy spirals. You watch them for a moment, letting yourself sink deeper into the stillness. Eventually, you rise again, restless in a gentle way. You open your shutter wider, letting the sounds of the street drift inside. Voices overlap. A baker calling out his fresh loaves, a merchant arranging his baskets of figs, a mule braying with impatience, a child laughing somewhere across the lane. You lean on the windowsill and look out. Rome is alive now, utterly awake. From your third-floor height, you see rooftops lined with clay tiles, jutting balconies, laundry stretching in lines like pastel flags. You see smoke drifting from chimneys, wavering slightly as the breeze lifts it. You see market stalls being unfolded, their wooden legs creaking in protest. And you see how precarious everything feels. The buildings lean slightly against each other. The rooftops sag here and there. Wooden beams jut in ways that feel improvised. A modern city would never tolerate this, but here it's simply life. Ordinary. Accepted. You close your shutter halfway to soften the light and turn back toward the room. The straw mattress beckons again, not for sleep this time, but for a moment of quiet reflection. You sit, legs folded beneath you, and listen as the sounds of Rome drift through the walls. Your breathing slows, your body settles. The Insula, with all its fragility, feels steady around you. For a moment, you imagine what it would be like to live here permanently. Fetching water, cooking in shared spaces, hearing arguments through thin walls, feeling the building sway in every storm. You imagine the closeness, the noise, the constant awareness of neighbors. And you understand deeply why someone from your world might not last a day. But for this slow, drifting morning, you're not overwhelmed. You're simply present, immersed, wrapped in the hum of an ancient building that has held countless mornings like this one. With another gentle breath, you rise. The day is still unfolding. Rome is waiting to show you its next quiet layer. You decide to stretch your legs again, feeling drawn back out into the corridor. The Insula hums with mid-morning energy now still subdued, but undeniably alive. The light that spills in from the narrow stairwell windows is warmer, shifting from soft blue to a gentle gold. Dust floats in it like drifting pollen, suspended, unhurried. You step into the glow and let your eyes adjust. A faint breeze drifts up from the open doorway below, carrying the scent of warm bread and fermenting wine, mingled with human activity sweat, wool, heated clay, and the subtle tang of olive oil rubbed onto pan surfaces for cooking. These smells settle along the wooden beams as naturally as breath, forming a kind of atmosphere unique to communal life. Romans didn't push these scents away. They live inside them, move through them, absorb them. The corridor creaks as you walk, not from your weight alone, but from the entire building's slow expansion under the growing warmth of morning. Wood swells with sunlight. Plaster cracks slightly as it loosens its grip. Ropes and nets stretched across the balconies tighten or relax in whispers you barely hear. The Insula is never truly still. Its materials are always shifting, but gently, like a great wooden ship at sea. As you reach the stairwell again, you hear a small commotion below. Tiny sandals scuffing, a soft thump, then a child's embarrassed giggle. Curious, you descend one flight. On the second floor, a boy of maybe 6 or 7 has dropped a wax tablet, its stylus clattering across the floor. He lunges forward to grab it, scoops it up, and clutches it protectively. His mother steps out behind him, hands on her hips, her hair wrapped in a loose knot. She doesn't scold him. She simply shakes her head fondly, gestures for him to follow, and the two slip back inside their doorway. You glimpse a small interior bare, dim, but filled with signs of living. Woven baskets, a patched-up stool, a low shelf holding dried beans in tiny piles. The boy's tablet probably held his morning writing exercises, a mix of simple words and letters scratched into the wax with beginner's precision. The door closes softly behind them. You continue down another few steps, but stop halfway, drawn by the sound of rhythmic tapping. On the landing below, a young man sits cross-legged near an open window, shaping a piece of leather. His fingers move with slow confidence, pressing and smoothing the material, folding its edges, punching a hole with a narrow awl. He looks up briefly, nods once as acknowledgement, then returns to his work. This is how many tenants here earn their living crafting goods by hand, repairing sandals, mending tunics, shaping pottery, weaving flax. The Insula is not only a home, it is a miniature ecosystem of labor, with each floor holding the skills of its residents like tiny beating hearts. You watch the young man for another quiet moment. His hands work steadily, his brows relaxed, his posture comfortable. Then you move on. The first floor is even livelier now. A woman pours water into a basin and begins washing small pots, scrubbing with a handful of sand. Another resident, an older man with deep creases around his eyes, kneels beside a storage chest, rummaging through tools until he finds a small hammer. Someone upstairs calls out a greeting, and he answers with a warm, gruff sound that echoes faintly up toward the higher floors. You realize that every sound in this building has texture soft, wooden, imperfect, human. You walk toward the doorway and step outside again, into the widening light of morning. The street has transformed since you last saw it. Vendors are setting up their booths or small blankets on the ground. A man selling olives arranges them in neat piles, green, black, wrinkled, plump. A woman sits beside him shredding cabbage into fine strips for her midday stew. Two young girls chase a chicken that escaped its basket, their laughter ringing sharp and clear through the alleyway. A mule stands nearby, tethered to a post, its ears flicking lazily at flies. A cart rests beside it, loaded with amphorae, sealed with wax. You suspect these hold wine or olive oil delivered to a nearby tavern or private home. The mule snorts, shifting its weight, its thick hide catching the light. You take in the scene slowly, letting its details drift into you like warm air. Rome is not glamorous here, not polished or monumental. Rome here is earthy, textured, noisy, real. And somehow, that makes it beautiful. You wander down the street for a moment, letting your senses explore the world at your own pace. A bakery door stands open, letting out a wave of hot, yeasty air with each passing breeze. Inside, you glimpse a baker sliding a flat round loaf onto a wooden board. The heat of the oven radiates outward, warming even the stones beneath your feet. A small girl outside the bakery offers you a sample of bread, just a torn piece from a larger loaf. You take it, feeling its warmth seep into your fingers. You bite into it, and the taste is simple yet deeply satisfying. Wheat, heat, and a faint hint of smoke absorbed from the oven's interior walls. The girl beams with pride before skipping off to deliver samples to others. You savor the last bite slowly, letting it dissolve gently on your tongue. After a short walk, you return to the Insula, not because you must, but because the building now feels like a companion. Its imperfect walls, its creaking bones, and the faint murmurs of life inside call to you gently, like a familiar voice inviting you home. You pause at the doorway for a breath before stepping inside again. The interior is brighter now. Sunlight filters through small openings in the stairwell, casting angled beams that land on steps, rails, and dusty corners. The brightness reveals more of the building's age, the cracks, the uneven surfaces, the patches repaired with mismatched materials. Everything here is functional, not decorative, yet it all carries the quiet dignity of endurance. You climb back to the third floor, listening to the symphony of movement around you. Footsteps above, a stool scraping across a floor, water sloshing in a bucket, someone humming a song with no real melody more, like a slow wandering of sound meant only for themselves. When you return to your room, the light through your shutter is softer now, settling into a warm honey hue. You sit again, letting your body sink into the mattress. The straw rustles beneath you, bending and shifting to cradle your shape. You stretch your legs and let your fingertips glide across the rough fabric of your blanket. This moment feels suspended a quiet pause inside a busy world. You lie back carefully, watching the ceiling beams overhead. Some of them show charring from a hearth fire long ago, likely in a different apartment, perhaps 2 or 3 tenants before you. The marks tell a story not of danger, but of survival. The structure held, the people lived, the insula endured. Your breathing slows naturally as you settle into the stillness. The building continues its soft conversation around you. You hear the faint murmur of a conversation 2 rooms away, too dim to understand, but gentle enough to comfort. A pot clinks as someone sets it aside. A broom sweeps in long, slow strokes. A neighbor closes their door with a muted thud. You feel yourself drifting into a relaxed state, neither fully awake nor fully dreaming, simply floating through the ambience that wraps around you. After a few minutes, you rise again, feeling an impulse to explore upward. You climb toward the fourth floor, the poorer, lighter, more fragile rooms. As you step into that level, the wooden planks beneath your feet feel thinner, far more elastic. These upper floors receive little support, and the sway of the building becomes more noticeable here. You feel the faint give beneath your weight, the gentle tremor of beams responding to movement elsewhere. Yet the atmosphere is warm. A woman sits near an open doorway, mending a child's tunic, humming softly as she works. A man scrapes soot from a small lamp, cleaning it so it will burn brighter later. A young mother rocks her infant gently, stepping in slow circles to soothe the child, while singing a fragment of a lullaby older than the building itself. Their lives unfold in moments, not in grand gestures. Small tasks, small comforts, small acts of resilience. You walk toward a narrow window cut into the wall. Through it, sunlight pours in sharply, illuminating dust motes floating like tiny stars. You place your hand on the windowsill and lean outward slightly. From this higher vantage point, your view expands. You see rooftops stretching into the distant terracotta waves, broken by chimneys and makeshift balconies. Washing lines flutter in the breeze. Pigeons bob their heads along the edges of tiles. A group of children tosses a pebble game on the street below, their laughter floating upward like birdsong. The smell drifting from this height is different. Warm clay, sun-baked fibers, and the distant tang of tannery work to the west. The breeze is gentle but steady, carrying the murmur of countless conversations you'll never hear clearly. You take in the view for a while, letting your eyes wander without purpose. Eventually, the sun climbs sharply overhead, brightening the city to a soft blaze. The heat intensifies, pushing people indoors or into pockets of shade. You feel the warmth settle against your skin, inviting but insistent. You return to your room on the third floor, closing the shutter halfway to dim the harshest rays. The interior becomes a quiet refuge again. You sit on the stool, dip your fingers into the water jar, and let cool droplets fall onto your neck. They slide down slowly, leaving faint trails of relief. Midday in Rome approaches, and with it a natural slowing of the world. Your body softens with the rhythm of the day. The sounds quiet. The air thickens. The Insula holds you gently in its wooden embrace. The morning has passed, but it has left you with a deeper understanding. This ancient apartment, fragile and noisy and endlessly alive, demands patience, attention, and acceptance. But here, drifting in the quiet warmth of midday, you feel none of the strain. Only the calm of witnessing a world unfold at a pace older than memory. The day continues. And so do you. The air inside your room has grown noticeably warmer. The last traces of morning coolness have faded, leaving behind a stillness that presses softly against your skin. Roman midday has its own kind of quiet, less the silence of rest and more the heaviness of a city exhaling under the weight of the sun. It's not quite the oppressive heat of summer, but even on an ordinary day, the Insula absorbs warmth the way a sponge takes in water. You lie back on your mattress again, listening to the wooden frame beneath you adjust with small, tickling sounds as though settling more deeply under your weight. The straw crackles softly, forming itself around your shape. You feel your muscles loosen without effort. The world beyond the shutter becomes a muffled hum, distant but familiar. You close your eyes for a moment. The air tastes faintly of dust and warm linen. The smell isn't unpleasant, just honest, grounded, lived in. A building like this holds centuries of breath in its walls. Even if you could wash it all away, something essential would be lost. You sit up after a few minutes and feel an instinctive pull toward movement again. Rest in ancient Rome is precious, but it is rarely long. Life demands a body in motion. So you rise, stretch your arms above your head, and feel your spine lengthen, vertebra by vertebra, releasing tensions you didn't realize you carried. The corridor outside your room has grown quieter. Most tenants have retreated indoors for the midday lull, escaping the brightest hours or conserving energy for the afternoon work. You walk toward the stairs again, footsteps soft against the wood, and descend to the second floor. Here, the quality of silence feels different. You hear muted voices, low, soft, the kind spoken between family members sharing a meal. A few doors stand half open to invite whatever breeze might trickle through the insula. Through one crack, you glimpse a mother and daughter plucking herbs from a small clay bowl. Through another, a man sits hunched over a wooden board, slicing yesterday's bread into thin pieces softened with wine. Meals here are simple, quick, and practical. Across the hall, someone snores deep, rhythmic, likely an exhausted laborer resting before returning to an afternoon shift hauling stones or mixing mortar. The smell of food fills the corridor. Lentils simmered with garlic, bread dipped in oil, a faint sweetness of dates sluggishly warming in the air. Together, the scents form a kind of warm fog, slipping into your senses, slowing your thoughts, inviting stillness. You place your hand on the wooden railing and descend another flight. The heat thickens slightly as you approach the lower floors, where walls are closer to ground fires, and where sunlight filters in more generously through doorways kept open for ventilation. On the first floor, the mood is not sleepy but subdued. These rooms, often connected to small family businesses or workshops, feel more active even at midday. A man sits on a low stool repairing a damaged basket. His hands move slowly, pushing reeds through one another, weaving them in a patient rhythm. The repetition of it is hypnotic. You watch for a moment and feel your breath settle into the cadence of his motions. A potter stands beside him, inspecting a line of small cups drying in the sun. He lifts one to the light, turning it, squinting. Satisfied, he lowers it gently among the others. His movements are deliberate, as though speed might break something invisible. No one rushes. Not here. Not now. The hours between late morning and mid-afternoon belong to slowness. You step outside the insula again. The sun greets you with a soft weight, warm, bright, but not harsh. Shadows cling to the walls in short, tight shapes. The street feels calmer than earlier. Vendors have taken seats behind their stalls, fanning themselves with bits of cloth. Children linger in shaded patches, drawing idle shapes in the dust with pebbles. A man at a small kiosk sips watered wine and calls out half-heartedly to passing customers. His energy is low, but his voice remains cheerful, as if speaking out of habit more than ambition. You take a few steps down the lane. The stones beneath your feet radiate warmth, softened by the sun. You look upward toward the rooftops. Several residents have climbed there to escape the heat of their rooms. They sit in small clusters, talking, mending clothes, or simply watching the city stretch out beneath them. It's too bright to join them now. You would prefer the shade for the moment, so you wander toward a small public fountain at the end of the street. The fountain is simple, a stone basin fed by a spout shaped like a lion's head. Clear water pours steadily into the pool below, making a soft, continuous trickling sound that cools your senses. A few people gather along its edge. A woman rinses a cloth. A young boy splashes his face, sending droplets into the air like a burst of tiny glass beads. An elderly man fills a clay jar slowly, watching the stream with relaxed focus. You kneel beside the fountain, dip your hands into the water, and bring it up to your face. The shock of coolness snaps your body awake in the gentlest possible way. You feel each droplet cling to your skin, sliding along your temples, dripping from your chin. The water smells faintly of stone and earth clean, grounding. You repeat the action once more, savoring the sensation. Nearby, a stray dog lies stretched in the shade, its ears flicking lazily. A pair of pigeons peck at crumbs along the fountain's edge. Life here is simple, textured, layered with familiar rituals. As you rise, you feel refreshed. Not energized, just soothed. Midday has a way of softening everything. You begin walking back to the insula, noticing the quality of light shifting again. The brightness is still firm, but it has begun its slow curve downward, promising a gentler late afternoon ahead. When you step into the insula's entrance, the darkness inside seems deeper by comparison. The stairwell feels cooler again, as though the building itself has exhaled a long breath of shade. You climb once more to the third floor, your hand lightly brushing the wall. In your room, you close the shutter halfway to dim the light. The space becomes a gentle cave warm, quiet, safe. You sit on the stool and sip a little water from your jar. The taste is fresh, still holding the memory of the cold fountain. The sounds from the corridor come in waves. A faint conversation, a clink of pottery, a soft lullaby sung for a restless baby. Each sound feels softened by the heat, as if wrapped in cotton. You lie down again, this time letting your body fully relax into the straw mattress. Your legs stretch. Your arms rest loosely at your sides. Your head finds a comfortable hollow in the pillow. You close your eyes. Not to sleep, though. Sleep tempts you, but to let the building speak, because it does speak. Not in words, but in texture. A distant footstep, a floorboard shifting, a woven basket scraping lightly, a rope creaking somewhere above you. The sounds blend into a tapestry of soft, organic music, the heartbeat of the insula. You feel it around you, beneath you, even through the walls at your sides. After a few minutes, you open your eyes again, feeling rested but alert. The room glows with filtered sunlight, warm, but not blinding. You stretch once more and sit up, letting your feet rest lightly on the floor. You feel calm, very calm. Ancient Rome, with all its demands, has lulled you into its rhythm. You stand, adjust your tunic, and step back into the corridor. You walk toward the stairs, leading upward toward the top floor you visited earlier, but not fully explored. The fourth floor is quieter now. Many residents here are resting. A man sleeps on his mattress with the shutter wide open, letting whatever breeze may pass through. A mother nurses her infant in the dimness of her doorway, humming softly. A young woman sits on the balcony weaving a basket, her hands moving with slow purpose. You approach the rooftop door again, feeling drawn to the sky. When you push it open, you find the rooftop bathed in brilliance. The sun sits high, casting strong shadows across the uneven plaster. The air is warmer here, but softened by a mild wind that brushes your face like a warm hand dipped in cool water. A few people linger here, 2 older women sorting grains, a boy repairing a broken wooden toy, an elderly man mending a fishing net, even though the sea is far away. It doesn't matter. Nets serve many uses in Rome. He knots the cords with care, his hands practiced and patient. You walk past them and stand near the edge of the rooftop, and Rome unfolds before you. Miles of rooftops, waves of terracotta tiles, columns rising in the distance, banners fluttering, smoke drifting from hearths, the sound of carts rolling with steady purpose. You feel suspended between earth and sky. A bird glides overhead, silhouetted briefly by the sun before disappearing behind a taller building. The wind picks up, cooling the sweat on your skin. You let your eyes drift across the city's horizon, tracing the patterns of streets, alleys, and rooftops. You think about the people living here, their routines, their small joys, their quiet burdens. You imagine them climbing these stairs every day, carrying water, smoothing straw, mending cracks in their walls. You imagine the sound of children's footsteps, the evening songs, the whispered prayers offered to household gods. This insula, fragile as it is, holds all of that within its walls. And somehow, it holds you too. You remain on the rooftop until the sun starts to shift toward late afternoon, its color softening, its intensity easing. Only then do you return downstairs, back into the soft, enfolding dimness of the insula. The day continues forward, unhurried, and you follow with it, step by gentle step. Late afternoon folds itself gently over the insula, as though the sunlight has become more deliberate, more thoughtful, less intense. The heat that pressed so heavily against the walls earlier begins to loosen, leaving behind pockets of warmth, drifting like slow currents through the wooden corridors. The building feels lighter now, not physically, but energetically, as if it too has sighed away the strain of midday. After returning from the rooftop, you pause at the landing of the 4th floor. The corridor is nearly silent, save for the faint rustle of fabric as someone adjusts a curtain and the muted creak of a door shifting in its hinges. That lull in the day, the kind that rests between activity and evening chores, holds everything in a soft stillness. You descend to the 3rd floor and step into your room, closing the door behind you with a gentle push. The interior has taken on a muted glow, the filtered sunlight turning softly amber as it slips through the half-open shutter. Shadows stretch lazily across the floor, their edges rounded and blurred. You sit on the edge of your straw mattress. The heat of the day lingers faintly in the bedding, warmed by sunlight rather than bodies. You run your fingers across the blanket and feel the texture of coarse wool against your skin, a sensation simple yet grounding. You take a long, slow breath. The air is warm, dry, and tinged with the scent of wood warmed by hours of sunlight. You drink a small sip of water from your clay cup. The water, though no longer cold, still carries a faint coolness that satisfies your senses. It tastes slightly earthy, touched by the clay vessel that holds it. Not unpleasant, just ancient, like something drawn directly from the past and placed in your hands. As you sit quietly, you hear faint laughter from outside your shutter, a group of children playing in the street below. The sound echoes up between the buildings, buoyed by stone walls that trap and return it in softened pulses. You move closer to the window, leaning your elbow on the sill. Below you, the street is changing. Where midday brought sluggishness, the approach of evening brings renewed energy. Carts once abandoned in the heat are now being pulled forward again. Merchants tidy up their stalls. A woman sells warm honey cakes from a woven basket, and their scent sweet, buttery, with a hint of spice drifts upward in delicate waves. A pair of men unload amphorae from a mule-drawn cart, working in practiced coordination. The clay vessels press into their shoulders as they carry them inside a small storeroom. One mutters something under his breath, and the other laughs quietly, shaking his head in agreement. Life feels unhurried again, rhythmic, almost melodic. You let your gaze linger a little longer before you step away from the window. Back in the corridor, the air feels different, cooler, but more animated. Residents are beginning to prepare their evening meals. A few doors are open, revealing glimpses inside. A woman kneeling before a small brazier, stirring a pot of barley. A man rinsing herbs in a shallow basin. A child helping his older sister slice a fig with careful, clumsy motions. You move toward the stairs and descend one level. On the 2nd floor, the shift from rest to activity is more pronounced. Voices are louder here, still gentle, never harsh, but filled with life. A young man leans against a doorway, cleaning fish, the scales catching the fading sunlight in iridescent flashes. A couple sits on their floor, weaving small baskets for storing grain or legumes. Their fingers move so fluidly, you almost don't notice the intricate pattern forming. Everything feels soaked in domestic simplicity. A woman passes you, carrying a clay jug balanced expertly on her hip. She pauses to steady herself against the railing before descending toward the cistern. You watch her form move gracefully down the stairs, her steps practiced and sure even as the wood creaks beneath her. You follow at a distance. On the 1st floor, activity is even more lively. This level houses more workshop shoemakers, small-scale potters, woodworkers, and many of them resume work in the cooler hours of the day. The soundscape here is richer. The tap of leather stretched over a mold, the scrape of a file shaping wood, the low murmur of two craftsmen discussing grain prices, the rhythmic whoosh of a broom, sweeping away the dust of a day's labor. You wander among them, unnoticed or simply accepted. Rome is a city of spectators and participants mixed together without detailed boundaries. People here are used to being observed by neighbors, by strangers, by customers, by gods. A potter invites you to admire a cup he's recently glazed. He lifts it carefully, holding it toward the light from the open doorway. The clay is slightly uneven, but its imperfections make it beautiful, authentic, handmade, timeless. You nod your appreciation, and he smiles. From the street just outside, the smell of roasting nuts drifts in through the open door. A vendor has set up his small brazier on the corner and is stirring a pile of almonds and hazelnuts with a wooden paddle. Their skins crackle as they warm. The scent is irresistible. You step outside, greet the vendor with a nod, and accept a small handful in exchange for a single worn bronze coin. They are warm, lightly salted, and fragrance simple, satisfying. You stand there for a moment, feeling the warmth of the nuts radiating through your palm as you eat them one by one. The street glows in the softening afternoon light. Shadows grow longer, stretching toward you like fingers painted across the stones. A group of women gathers near the fountain, washing vegetables for the evening meal. Their conversations overlap in a gentle symphony tones, rising and falling, punctuated by laughter or soft clucks of disapproval at gossip you cannot fully hear. The water splashes in bright arcs as they rinse beans, greens, and roots. You walk further down the lane, noticing how the Insula stands tall behind you, tired but dignified. Its plastered walls catch the sunlight in uneven patches, creating a mosaic of glowing gold and muted brown. The wooden balconies jut outward like uneven teeth, casting broken shadows against the building's facade. Even in stillness, the Insula feels alive. When you return inside, the stairwell carries the warm aroma of bread, herbs, and cooking oil. Someone above you must be frying something, perhaps onions mixed with barley flour, or fritters made from yesterday's leftovers. The scent is mouth-watering, filling the corridor like a soft, invisible blanket. You pause at the second-floor landing, where a family is gathered around their evening meal. The mother ladles lentil stew from a pot into wooden bowls, while her children wait patiently, hands folded, eyes expectant. The father arrives with a small loaf of bread tucked under his arm, its crust darkened from the communal oven. He tears pieces off, handing them out with gentle care. The scene unfolds without ceremony, without rush. It is simply life. You move on to your own floor. When you reach your room, you discover the air inside has cooled slightly, helped by the shifting wind outside. You push your shutter open wider to let the breeze circulate. The fabric of your blanket flutters lightly. The light in the room deepens to a mellow amber, like honey diluted with water. You sit on your stool and take a moment to absorb the quiet. Your room may be small, barely large enough for a mattress, a stool, a jug, and a few belongings, but it has a certain softness at this hour. The walls glow faintly. The ceiling beams cast long, comforting shadows. The air feels restful, prepared for evening. You tear a small piece of bread and dip it in a bowl of olive oil left from earlier, savoring its richness. You eat slowly, letting each bite linger. Romans didn't rush their meals, especially not at the end of the day. They saw food as a time to pause, to breathe, to restore. As you eat, you hear voices drifting from the rooftop, again soft, unhurried. A few residents have gathered there to escape the heat trapped in their tiny rooms. The sound of distant conversation floats through the open stairwell like threads of music. You follow it upward. The rooftop looks different now. Where before it was bright and hot, now it is bathed in golden evening light. The city below seems softer, to its edges blurred by the shifting sun. A few residents sit together, sharing pieces of fruit. A man plucks at a simple lyre, its melody faint but soothing. A woman braids her daughter's hair, weaving it into a loose knot. You walk toward the far side of the rooftop and lean against the low wall. The breeze brushes your skin gently, carrying with it the scents of roasted grains, burning charcoal, and the unmistakable smell of the Tiber, a mix of water, silt, and life that winds its way through the city. Below you, the street grows busier again. People returning home, children reunited with parents, merchants closing up shop, dogs stretching after long naps, dust rising and settling in slow waves. You watch all of it unfold, and you feel yourself tethered to this world, not as a visitor, but as someone drifting through it with full permission, embraced by its pace, its imperfections, its warmth. The sun dips lower. A glow settles across the Insula's facade, lighting the plaster in a final burst of brilliance before the day begins its descent. You see the shadows of your fellow tenants stretch long across the rooftop, their movements graceful, unhurried. You exhale softly. Evening has begun, and the story of your Roman day continues forward warm, gentle, and unbroken. Evening gathers itself around the Insula like a shawl, first loose and luminous, then slowly tightening as the sun drifts lower behind the rooftops of Rome. The golden light that once flooded the rooftop now melts into a warmer, deeper hue, turning the sky into a gradient of soft rose and fading amber. The air cools by degrees, just enough to lift the heat from your skin and replace it with a gentle, almost tender breeze. You linger at the rooftop for a while longer, watching the changing sky. The last of the sun's rays skim the top edges of nearby buildings, catching on tiles and chimneys, igniting them in brief flashes before the shadows swallow them whole. Voices mingle softly around you, fragments of conversation, low laughter, the gentle bounce of a lyre string being plucked. Nothing loud, nothing hurried. This hour invites softness. A boy chases a wooden hoop across the rooftop, guiding it with a stick. The tapping sound echoes lightly between walls, bright, but not intrusive. A woman kneels beside a basket of beans, sorting them with patient fingers, her movements steady and rhythmic. A man leans on the edge of the roof, gazing out at the skyline with an expression that sits somewhere between contemplation and quiet pride. You feel it too, that strange affection for a place that is not yours and yet feels strangely familiar. The Insula has spent the entire day teaching you its rhythms, its textures, its language of wood and air and human closeness. And now, as evening emerges, it begins teaching you how Rome unwinds. The breeze cools a little more, brushing your arms like a whisper. You take a slow breath and let it fill your lungs. The scent of cooking fires rises from the streets below, roasted onions, garlic crushed beneath the flat of a knife, olive oil warming in small clay pans. These aromas drift in gentle swirls upward, mixing with the earthy smell of dust, settling as the day's bustle eases. You turn away from the skyline and head back toward the stairwell. As you descend to the fourth floor, the building seems calmer, its earlier activity settling into a steady, peaceful hum. A mother stands in her doorway, rocking her child, who sleeps with a cheek pressed against her shoulder. She sways gently, her expression soft, the faint rhythm of her movement echoing the lullaby she hums under her breath. You continue downward. On the third floor, where your own room waits, the corridor is bathed in a warm, flickering glow. Several families have placed small oil lamps outside their doors, allowing some shared light to soften the darkness. The flames flicker with each passing breath of air, painting the walls in rhythmic shadows that dance and glide. Your room is cooler now, its atmosphere darkening as the shutter admits only the last traces of sunset. You step inside, feeling a familiar comfort settle around you with the room's dim embrace. You light your own small oil lamp, shielding the flame with your hand until it steadies. The glow blooms slowly, illuminating the wooden beams above, the woven blanket on your mattress, the clay cup resting on the stool. The lamp casts soft amber warmth across the walls, turning your modest room into a cocoon. The shadows move gently around you, swaying with the flame. You sit on the mattress again and take a moment to absorb the softness of this hour. It's a transition time, the bridge between the labor of day and the closeness of night. A time when burdens lighten and conversations deepen. You find yourself drifting into the rhythm without resistance. Your senses slow. Your thoughts soften. Everything seems quieter, as though the insula itself is whispering to you to rest a while. But evening is not entirely for resting. Your stomach reminds you of the passing hours with a gentle, insistent pull. You haven't eaten much since the bread and the handful of roasted nuts. Romans often ate modest meals, simple but filling, and dinner, while not extravagant, was still a cherished moment of the day. You rise, take your small bowl, and step into the corridor. You walk slowly toward the stairs, following the warm smell of evening meals. On the second floor, where families gather closely and space is shared generously, the corridor feels almost festive. Children sit cross-legged near doorways, nibbling on scraps of cheese or fruit. Adults pass in and out of rooms carrying bowls, pitchers, and platters. The sounds here are richer laughter, soft arguments about seasoning, greetings exchanged between neighbors whose lives overlap daily. A young woman waves you over. In her hands is a small tray filled with pieces of warm flatbread, brushed lightly with olive oil. When you approach, she offers you one with a gentle smile. You thank her with a nod and bite into the bread. It's soft inside, toasted at the edges, fragrant with herbs. A subtle fleck of salt tingles on your tongue. Her family sits in a cluster nearby: cousins, siblings, a grandmother with silver-threaded hair. Their doorway is open, revealing the interior lit by 2 oil lamps placed on a wooden shelf. The grandmother mixes lentils in a clay pot, stirring slowly, her movements sure and experienced. Someone hands her a bowl of chopped herbs. She sprinkles them in without looking, trusting her intuition. You linger there for a moment, appreciating the warmth radiating from the scene. There is something timeless about it. People sharing food, sharing stories, sharing space. Even without words, the meaning is clear. Life in an insula is lived together, woven in and out of one another's hours. You continue down to the first floor. The workshops are quieter now, tools cleaned and stored, tables wiped, dust swept aside. A few artisans remain, finishing the last touches on a project before closing for the night. One shoemaker threads a final stitch through a sandal strap, his hands moving with the slow determination of someone who has crafted hundreds of pairs exactly like this. Another worker shapes a wooden spoon with a short-handled knife, shaving off thin curls of wood that fall gently to the floor like pale petals. Outside, the street glows in the fading light of dusk. Lanterns are lit one by one. A boy trots by carrying a torch, lighting wall sconces with playful pride. The flame flickers high, casting long shadows across the uneven stones. You step outside and breathe in the evening air. It carries a faint chill now, balanced against the lingering heat rising from the ground. A woman sells fruit from a basket: figs, grapes, and sliced apples sprinkled with herbs. You accept a piece of fig, its sweetness soft and earthy. A group of neighbors gathers near the fountain, washing their hands and faces before supper. The cool water splashes against the stone, catching the lamplight in delicate glimmers. The voices here are relaxed, unhurried, touched with the softness of people who have finished their hardest work for the day. After a short walk, you return inside. As you climb the stairs again, the insula seems more peaceful than ever. The sounds have shifted into a gentle evening register. The light tapping of footsteps, a murmur of adults speaking quietly, the laughter of children now softened by fatigue, a clink of pottery as meals are served. On the third floor, a small family sits on the floor sharing their dinner: barley, lentils, a few olives, and bread torn into pieces. They sit close to one another, knees nearly touching. Their bowls are simple. Their expressions are content. You nod to them as you pass, and they smile warmly. Back in your room, the oil lamp glows steadily. You sit again. You tear another small piece of bread and dip it into oil. You taste each bite with slow thoughtfulness. Through the wall behind you, you hear your neighbors settling down to eat. Their voices rise and fall in soft waves, gentle, familial, woven with affection. Even without understanding their words, the warmth is unmistakable. Your lamp casts moving shadows on the walls. They sway with each breath of air, stretching and shrinking as the flame flutters. The room feels more intimate now, the boundary between light and dark narrowing until only your small circle of illumination remains. After eating, you extinguish the flame and let your eyes adjust to the dimness. The shutter allows just enough of the rising moonlight to paint silver streaks across the floor. You move to the window and push it open slightly. The night air enters like a sigh, cooler, calmer, scented with distant fires and crushed herbs. You lean on the sill and look down at the street. Rome at night is a different world. The loudness fades, the pace slows, the shadows stretch and merge. The voices soften to murmurs. Somewhere nearby, a musician plucks a gentle tune. You can't see him, but the melody floats upward between the buildings. Slow, reflective, almost dreamlike. The notes drift like feathers caught in a breeze. You stay at the window for a long moment, letting the night wrap itself around you. The city hums softly, accompanied by the faint rustle of laundry lines swaying in the breeze and the distant splash of water in a courtyard fountain. Eventually, you close the shutter again and return to your mattress. You lie down. The straw shifts beneath you, forming a cradle. The darkness settles softly around your body. The Insula breathes with you, creaking gently, settling into its wooden spine, holding you in the midst of Rome's unfolding night. And as your body sinks into restfulness, you know the day is far from over. Rome is preparing to show you how its evenings bloom, how people gather in dim spaces, how lamps flicker against plaster walls, how conversations stretch like vines into the night. Your eyelids grow heavier, your breath deepens. The night in ancient Rome is just beginning. Night gathers slowly around the Insula, taking its time, as though reluctant to extinguish the last faint threads of daylight stretched across the rooftops. The warm colors of dusk bleed gradually into softer blues, then deeper purples, until the world settles into a velvety dimness. You lie on your mattress for a few quiet moments, listening as the building shifts again, its beams adjusting to cooler air, its walls relaxing like tired lungs, emptying after a long breath. The Insula at night speaks differently. During the day, it hummed with life, voices tumbling over one another and the constant churn of activity. But now, as darkness settles, the sounds become softer, more selective. You hear only those movements that matter: the shuffling of sandals on wood, the lifting of bowls, the closing of shutters, the sigh of someone easing onto their mattress after a long day of work. You sit up slowly, feeling the straw beneath you compress and rustle. The lamp is still unlit. You don't need it yet. Your eyes adjust to the ambient glow seeping through the cracks of your shutter, a faint, silvery light that outlines the shapes in your room like gentle strokes of chalk. The air has cooled enough that you take a deeper breath, savoring the relief it brings. You run your hand across the blanket, feeling its warmth lingering from the day. There is something soothing about this contrast, the coolness of the air paired with the residual heat of fabric and straw. Eventually, you rise and walk toward the window. You push the shutter open just a sliver. Moonlight spills into your room in a soft arc. Below you, the street glows in muted tones, lanterns flickering in doorways, oil lamps lighting small stalls still open for business, shadows swaying gently with each movement of the flame. The buildings appear taller in the muted light, their outlines softened, their imperfections blurred. It's as though the city has been draped in a thin veil, obscuring its harsh edges, its dust, its clamor. Rome at night feels like a different creature altogether. More contemplative, more intimate, more willing to show you its quieter heartbeat. A group of neighbors gathers near the fountain, sharing bits of bread and wine in the lingering coolness. They sit on the stone ledge, speaking softly, their voices carrying upward in smooth, fluid waves. Someone laughs a quiet, warm sound that blends with the trickle of water. A dog curls near their feet, its breathing slow and steady. Two children chase each other half-heartedly, already tired but unwilling to surrender to sleep. Somewhere farther down the alley, a vendor closes his stall, the clatter of wood on wood echoing momentarily before fading into the night. You watch all of it with a gentle curiosity. After a few minutes, you pull your shutter closed and step into the corridor. The Insula has transitioned fully into its nighttime atmosphere. The flickering glow of oil lamps dotted along the hallway creates alternating pockets of brightness and darkness. The walls appear almost golden where the light touches them, then drop into deep shadow a mere step away. You walk slowly, letting your feet feel the subtle give of the wooden planks beneath you. The air holds a softness, now a mixture of cooling plaster, faint cooking aromas drifting from late meals, and the occasional whisper of someone moving behind a closed door. You reach the stairwell and begin descending. On the second floor, the energy is subdued, but not entirely still. A family sits outside their door, sharing the final bites of their dinner. The father dips bread into a bowl of stew, then hands a piece to his youngest child. The child's face glows in the lamplight as he chews contentedly. An older woman sits nearby mending a garment, her needle flashing briefly each time it catches the light. She hums under her breath, her voice worn smooth by the years. Her song rises and falls slowly, like waves brushing against the shore. It's not a melody you recognize, but it feels timeless, ancient, even to the people of this world. You continue downward, letting the soft murmur of their voices fade behind you. On the first floor, many workshops have closed, but a few artisans remain awake. These are the ones who prefer the quiet, who enjoy working when the city has settled. A carpenter sits cross-legged, polishing the leg of the stool until it gleams faintly in the lamplight. A potter smooths the rim of a clay cup with slow, deliberate motion, his fingers coated in a thin dusting of dried slip. The sounds here are gentle. The rasp of wood against cloth, the soft scrape of clay beneath steady hands, the occasional click of a tool set carefully onto the ground. You pause, leaning lightly against the railing, watching the potter work. There is an almost meditative quality to his movements, the patient shaping, the subtle turn of the wrist, the careful smoothing of imperfections. His posture is relaxed, his face serene. For him, this is not work but ritual. After a while, he looks up and nods in acknowledgement. You nod back before moving toward the exit. Stepping outside, you feel the night air embrace you again. It carries hints of cool stone and distant fires, with a touch of herbs perhaps, rosemary crushed under someone's foot, or sage drifting from a nearby kitchen window. The smell is soothing, grounding. You walk a short distance down the street. Rome's nighttime rhythm is different from what a modern person expects, slower, quieter, but full of small movements. No loud music, no buzzing lights, no neon displays. Instead, the city glows gently. Shadows shift with each flicker of an oil lamp. Soft conversations weave in and out of earshot. Footsteps on stone echo faintly, never sharp. Dogs settle and resettle in comfortable corners. A group of young men sit outside a small tavern, passing a jug of watered wine between them. They speak in murmurs, occasionally bursting into soft laughter. The lantern hanging above the tavern door sways slightly in the breeze, casting a dancing halo around their faces. You walk past them, and they greet you casually, without expectation. In this city, the street belongs to everyone. You are simply another presence drifting through the night. You continue until you reach a small intersection where two alleys meet. At the center lies a stone fountain, its waters glinting beneath the moon. A woman with a basket of laundry kneels beside it, rinsing a cloth in the cool water even at this hour. Wash day doesn't end with the sun. Tasks follow their own logic here, shaped more by available time than by light. You watch as she wrings the cloth gently, her arms strong, but her movements careful. She lays the damp linen beside her, then dips another piece. The sound of water is soothing, steady, rhythmic, like rain tapping lightly on a roof. After a few minutes, you turn back toward the Insula. As you step inside, the building greets you with familiar creaks and taps, its nighttime song fully awakened. You climb the stairs slowly, feeling the coolness deepen with each level. On the second floor, a small group of neighbors sits talking softly, their silhouettes dark against the lamplight. They share a plate of olives and bread, passing them in quiet camaraderie. Their voices drift through the corridor in soft currents, subtle, comforting, easy. On the third floor, near your room, someone has placed a small offering to the household spirits on a ledge. A few drops of wine in a shallow dish, a sprig of herbs, a tiny piece of bread. It's a gesture of gratitude for surviving another day, for the protection of the Insula, for the fragile balance of life in a city both beautiful and unpredictable. You nod at the offering instinctively, even though it isn't yours. Respect in a communal building is shared. Rituals belong to everyone. When you step back into your room, the lamp's warm glow welcomes you. You sit on your mattress. The air is quieter than before. The shadows are deeper. Your breathing slows. You lie back, pressing your head into the straw-filled pillow. The Insula speaks softly around you. Footsteps above, a muted cough below, a soft clatter in a distant hallway. These are not interruptions. These are the lullabies of ancient Rome. You close your eyes, just for a moment, feeling the day settle into your bones. But you don't sleep yet. This night has more to show you. The hush of late hours, the murmurs of dreams beginning behind thin walls, the secret calm of a city finally exhaling. The Insula creaks, the wind shifts, a lamp flickers in the corridor, and your Roman day continues, gently folding into night, drawing you further inward, deeper into the timeless quiet at the center of this ancient world. The night settles more fully now, deepening in color and in mood, like ink slowly thickening on parchment. The Insula's earlier murmurs fade into an even softer hum, a collection of small sounds folded into one another, the distant shifting of beams, the quiet rustle of blankets, the occasional sigh from someone settling into sleep. Even your own breathing seems to fall into rhythm with the building's gentle, creaking pulse. You lie on your mattress a little longer, letting the darkness wrap around you like a loose blanket. The straw beneath you has warmed to your body, forming a shallow cradle that holds you with unexpected tenderness. Sometimes in the quietest hours, these simple materials, straw, wool, clay, would feel more alive than the people who use them. Eventually, you sit up again. You're not restless, exactly, just aware that the night still contains layers waiting to unfold. Your senses feel unusually alert in this dimness. The slightest shift of air against your cheek, the faint glow seeping through the shutter's cracks, the nearly inaudible stretching of the building's wooden beams. You rise, pull your tunic close, and walk to the corridor. The hallway is darker now. Most lamps have been extinguished, leaving only a few winking lights stationed near doors. The glow of these small flames stretches across the floor in soft pools, illuminating bits of plaster and warm wood before falling abruptly into shadow. Your steps are gentle on the boards. The floor gives slightly with each movement. The Insula feels lighter, quieter, almost dreamlike. As you pass your neighbors' doors, you hear soft snippets of nighttime life. From one room, the faint splash of someone washing their hands before bed. From another, a voice whispering a short prayer to the household gods. From another still, a rhythmic breathing that suggests a child already deep in sleep. You reach the stairwell and begin descending slowly toward the second floor. Here, faint lamplight spills from a few open doorways. A young woman sits near her threshold, unwinding a length of yarn from a wooden spindle. She winds it into a loose ball as she hums, her voice little more than a breath. When she notices you, she offers a soft nod. Not a greeting, exactly more a shared acknowledgement of this quiet hour's intimacy. Farther down the corridor, two older men sit on stools, leaning against the wall. An oil lamp rests between them on the floor, its flame casting a warm glow across their faces. They speak in low tones about the day's events, the price of grain, a dispute between neighbors, a rumor about a new building rising closer to the forum. Their conversation isn't heated. It's simply the late-night exchange of men who have shared corridors, walls, and ears. You pause near them, listening for a moment. They acknowledge your presence with a lifted chin, the way Romans often greet someone without interrupting their thought. The flame dances, reflecting in their eyes, and you realize how accustomed these people are to fire being their only light. It has become an extra pair of hands, a silent companion, a protector that glows faintly against the darkness. After a few minutes, you continue downward. The first floor is almost silent now. Most workshops are dark, closed for the night. Tools rest neatly on shelves. Clay pots stack in tidy rows. Wooden boards lean against walls, waiting for tomorrow. Even the air feels stiller here, as though the building itself is in meditation. Only one workshop remains lit. Inside, a craftsman sits cross-legged, shaping the handle of a ladle by the glow of his small lamp. His knife moves with the slow precision of someone who trusts his hands implicitly. Each curl of shaved wood falls into his lap, then slips onto the floor. The air smells faintly of resin and fresh-cut wood, earthy, comforting, ancient. You stand at the doorway, observing quietly. He glances up and gives a tired but warm smile. His eyes are lined with age, but his hands remain steady, sure. He returns to his work without speaking further, allowing the calm to fill the space between you. You linger only a moment more before stepping outside into the night again. The street is darker now, illuminated only by scattered lamps and the soft glow from open windows. The moon rises high above the rooftops, a pale, round lantern in the sky. It casts light that feels cooler, cleaner, quieter than the warm radiance of fire. Shadows stretch long across the uneven stones. A soft breeze slips between buildings. Somewhere far off, a dog barks once, then falls silent. You walk toward the fountain, drawn by the sound of water. When you reach it, you find a young girl sitting on its edge, kicking her feet lightly against the stone. She holds a small doll made of bits of cloth and wool, and she whispers to it as though sharing a secret. The water behind her flows in a slow, whispering arc, catching the moonlight as it falls. She glances at you briefly, curious but unafraid. Children in Rome grow up surrounded by neighbors, strangers, voices, footsteps, smells. Privacy is an odd concept here. Safety depends not on separation, but on community, on eyes watching, ears listening, people existing together. You sit on the opposite edge of the fountain, letting your hands skim the cool surface of the water. The sensation is delicate, soothing. The girl watches you for a moment, then returns to whispering to her doll. Somewhere down the street, a pair of men pass carrying a small cart between them. The wooden wheels squeak softly as they move. They're likely returning from a tavern, the faint smell of wine clinging to their tunics. They speak quietly, thoughtfully, as though discussing something important, though their voices never rise above the murmur of water. You spend several minutes there, letting the coolness wash over your mind. This hour of the night is peaceful, but not empty. Rome breathes even when it sleeps. You rise eventually and begin walking back toward the Insula. As you reach the entrance, you pause to take in its silhouette, a towering shape with darkened balconies, crooked beams, and shuttered windows. Even at night, you can sense its fragile strength, the way it leans slightly but holds, the way it groans but endures. You step inside. The stairwell is dimmer now than before, with only one small oil lamp left burning on the second floor. The flame wavers in the faint breeze that trickles through the gaps in the building. You climb carefully, your hand trailing along the wall for balance. On the third floor, your neighbors have retreated fully into their rooms. Only the faintest glow seeps through cracks around doorframes. The corridor is quiet, broken only by your footsteps and the occasional creak of wood adjusting to the coolness of night. You enter your room and close the door softly behind you. Inside, the air feels still, almost heavy with calm. You light your oil lamp once more, if only briefly, to reorient yourself. The flame blinks awake, casting its amber glow around the room. Your small belongings cast long shadows, stretching toward the walls. You sit on your mattress, lifting your knees to your chest for a moment and wrapping your arms loosely around them. The warmth of the lamp settles around you like a soft blanket. Every sound from beyond the walls grows fainter, distant like echoes of a world slowly falling asleep. You lie down again, allowing the quiet to seep into your muscles. The lamp flickers. You extinguish it with a slow, steady breath. Darkness returns, gentle, velvety, warm. Your room now is a half-lit cavern of moonlight filtering through the shutter. The beam paints a silver streak across your blanket. You watch it for a moment, letting your eyes grow heavy. But sleep doesn't claim you just yet. You listen instead. The Insula speaks in murmurs. A neighbor turning over on their mattress, a soft whisper behind a wall, a faint scurry of a mouse in the rafters, the wind sliding through the rooftop gaps. It feels like the building's heartbeat, steady and old. For a moment, you imagine all the people who have lived here before you, the countless bodies who have slept in these rooms, eaten in these corridors, whispered secrets behind these walls. Lives layered on top of one another, like sediment forming over centuries. Every breath taken here becomes part of the Insula's memory. You close your eyes again, the darkness deepens. Your breathing steadies. All around you, Rome has shifted fully into night. The city grows quieter. The stars sharpen above rooftops. The moon drifts higher. And the Insula, your temporary home, holds you calmly within its wooden bones, preparing you gently for the late hours still to come. The night deepens further, becoming something thicker, quieter, and more intimate than before. It no longer feels like evening. It feels like the true heart of darkness, the most velvety stretch of the day when time seems to loosen its grip. Lying on your straw mattress, you feel the stillness settle upon the Insula like a fine layer of ash, soft and weightless. Not silence, never silence in Rome, but a dimming of noise into a soothing hum. You turn onto your side, letting the blanket fall loosely around your shoulder. The air is cool now, almost cold compared to the earlier heat, and it brushes gently against the warm skin of your neck. You pull the blanket a little closer, feeling the scratch of wool against your fingertips. The Insula's nighttime sounds form a kind of lullaby. Above you, a wooden beam shifts with a soft groan. Below you, a neighbor turns in their sleep, the straw beneath them rustling like a distant whisper. Somewhere far down the corridor, a door creaks slowly open, then shuts with a muted thud. Nothing sudden, nothing sharp. Everything softened by the late hour. You lie still for several minutes, letting your breathing fall into the same pace as the building's gentle rhythms. But eventually, a subtle restlessness draws you upward, not agitation, but curiosity. Something in the deep, bluish darkness calls you to witness it. So you rise slowly, careful not to disturb the straw too much, and sit on the edge of your mattress. Your bare feet touch the cool floor, sending a small shiver up your legs. The air feels different now, thicker, more serene, as though the night has reached its fullest bloom. You stand, stretch your arms softly overhead, and move toward the door. The corridor outside is dim, lit by only one or two fading lamps placed near stairwell walls. Their flames sputter slightly, casting trembling shadows across the floorboards. The scent of burnt oil lingers faintly in the air, a warm, smoky smell that blends with the scent of wood and old plaster. You move quietly, as though you are trespassing into the Insula's private dreams. Passing one door, you hear a child murmuring in their sleep. Passing another, you hear the soft rhythmic breathing of a couple, their patterns overlapping like two waves, converging on the same shore. It feels almost sacred, this quiet intimacy shared unknowingly among neighbors. You reach the stairwell and begin to climb. On the fourth floor, the corridor feels even darker. A lone lamp flickers at the far end, its light weak and failing. A woman sits near her doorway, with her knees drawn to her chest, staring at the flame with distant eyes. She nods as you pass, not out of recognition, but out of shared solitude. Then she returns her gaze to the tiny golden flame, as though entrusting it with her thoughts. You keep climbing. The door to the rooftop stands slightly ajar, a thin ribbon of moonlight slipping through the opening. You step toward it, push gently, and feel the cool rush of outdoor air wash over your face. The rooftop at this hour feels like another world entirely. The sky stretches endlessly above you, painted in deep shades of indigo and charcoal. Stars glitter with startling clarity, brighter than anything you've seen in your own time. No pollution, no modern lights to dim their brilliance. The moon hangs nearly full, bathing the rooftops of Rome in a pale, ethereal glow. The city below is muted, wrapped in layers of shadow and silver. Footsteps echo occasionally in distant alleys. A baby cries somewhere, only for a breath before quieting again. Dogs bark in the distance, the sound drifting up like soft pebbles tossed into the air. You walk across the rooftop with slow, mindful steps. The plaster beneath your feet is cool, almost cold. You wrap your arms loosely around yourself as you reach the low wall that borders the edge. There, you lean forward slightly and look down into the narrow street. Lanterns flicker at intervals along the walls, their small flames swaying with the slightest breeze. A single man walks below, carrying a jug wrapped in cloth. He pauses near your Insula's entrance, glances up as if sensing movement, then continues down the alley without curiosity. Above, laundry lines stretch between rooftops like thin spider threads, swaying gently in the night air. A few tunics and cloths left out to dry flutter in the breeze, their edges glowing faintly with moonlight. You breathe in deeply. The night smells different now, cooler, cleaner, touched with the faint scent of smoke from distant hearths and the earthy aroma of clay tiles cooling under the moon. If you close your eyes, you might imagine the entire city breathing alongside you. A slow inhale, a patient exhale. When you open your eyes again, you notice someone else on the rooftop. An older man stands at the opposite corner, gazing upward at the sky. His posture is relaxed, his hands clasped loosely behind his back. He doesn't speak or acknowledge you directly. He simply shares the space, the stars, the moment. Romans often sought their rooftops late at night, not for entertainment, but for quiet reflection, for respite from the cramped rooms below, for the feeling of sky stretching open above their heads. You don't disturb him. He doesn't disturb you. Both of you simply coexist beneath the same ancient sky. After a while, you walk back toward the stairwell. Your movements feel lighter now, slower, as though the moonlit air has softened your body. You step back inside and begin descending again. On the third floor, the corridor has fallen into deeper quiet. Most lamps have been extinguished. Only a few faint puddles of light remain, trembling softly as the flames shrink. You reach your door, push it open gently, and step inside. The room is cooler than before. Your blanket looks inviting in the darkness. The faint moonlight paints soft streaks across your floor. You lie down, sinking into the straw once more. The mattress welcomes your weight with a soft rustle. You pull the blanket up to your chest and rest your head against the pillow. But tonight still has more to reveal. Just when you think you've drifted into full stillness, a faint sound stirs your attention. At first, you think it's the building again, perhaps a beam shifting or a door settling into place. But then it comes again, softer this time. A distant chanting, rhythmic, low, floating through the streets. You sit up slightly. It's hard to tell where it's coming from, but it sounds like a small procession traveling somewhere beyond your insula. The voices blend together into a melodic hum, no words you can distinguish, just long flowing tones echoing lightly through the night air. Perhaps a vigil, perhaps a small group honoring a household god, perhaps a family marking the passing of someone dear. Rituals in Rome happen at all hours, often quietly, always with intention. The sound grows a little louder as the group moves closer. Then it softens again as they disappear down another alley. You sit there for a moment longer, listening until every last trace of their chants fades into the wind. You lie back down, letting your body sink more deeply into your mattress. Your breath grows steady once more. Your eyelids feel heavier. The insula seems to settle with you. The beings above become silent. The neighbors' movements quiet to stillness. Even the night breeze slows its whisper. You feel as though you are being held gently by the building, by the night, by the ancient rhythms of a world that has existed for centuries without you. The stars remain bright outside your shutter. The moon continues its slow path across the sky. The city breathes softly, deeply, and you drift with it, deeper into night. The procession's chanting dissolves into the night like a drifting thread, pulled slowly from your awareness until it becomes only memory. As the last echo fades, the insula settles again into its deep nocturnal stillness, a calm so complete it feels almost like a separate world within the city. You lie back down once more, drawing your blanket a little closer. The straw beneath you adjusts softly, shaping itself around your weight. For a moment, you simply breathe, letting the quiet wash over you. Your eyelids grow heavy, but not with sleep, more with the thick, dreamy weight of a night that has grown ancient and patient around you. But your body resists closing fully to the world just yet. Something about this hour feels suspended, as though Rome itself is holding its breath. You sense it in the walls, in the floor, in the air drifting through your shutter, an unspoken permission to wake a little longer, to witness what comes after the city's first layer of rest has wrapped itself around the streets. So you sit up again, slowly, reverently. The darkness in your room feels velvety, neither frightening nor empty. It has depth, texture. A faint glow seeps in around the edges of the shutter, more silver than white moonlight softened by the dust trapped in the night air. You let your gaze follow it until your mind settles into that soft, drifting focus. It feels halfway to dreaming. You stand and move toward the window. When you open the shutter, just a fraction more, the night air touches your face like cool fingertips. The breeze carries hints of crushed herbs, distant ashes, and the faint metallic scent of cooling stone. Far down the alley, the last lanterns burned by tavern-goers flicker lazily, their flames tired but stubborn, painting small halos on the walls nearby. A cat wanders across the lane, silent and self-contained, weaving between shadows as if they are threads in a familiar tapestry. It pauses beneath a balcony, looks up toward your window for a heartbeat, then slips away again with effortless grace. You watch the empty street for several quiet moments. Rome rarely reaches true silence, but at this hour, it comes close enough that you can hear the flutter of wings overhead as pigeons shift in their rooftop nests. Close enough to hear the wooden beams inside your insula adjusting again, sighing like an old friend shifting in their sleep. You close the shutter gently and turn back into the room. The night feels deeper now, more settled, more intimate. You wrap your arms loosely around yourself and step into the corridor. The hallway is darker than before. Only one lamp remains lit, placed carefully on a small ledge near the stairwell. Its flame wavers quietly, casting a small circle of warm light that fades quickly into surrounding shadow. The air is cool and still. You feel the calmness of sleeping neighbors through the thin wall's soft breaths, the occasional shift of a mattress, faint murmurs from dreams. You descend to the second floor, each step slow, deliberate. Halfway down, you pause, not because of noise, but because of a quiet intuition. You sense someone awake on this level. As you reach the landing, you see it, a sliver of lamplight leaking beneath a door near the end of the corridor. Someone inside is still awake, working or tending to some quiet task. It is a small workshop one reserved by a resident who couldn't afford a storefront, so they use their living space as both home and workspace. You move quietly toward the faint light, not to intrude, but to witness the rare stillness of Roman craftsmanship at this late hour. Through the half-open door, you glimpse a young woman bent over a loom. The loom is simple, made of wood worn smooth by years of use. She guides each thread with steady hands, passing the shuttle back and forth in a rhythm that feels almost like breathing. Her lamplight casts a warm glow across the woven threads, highlighting patterns emerging slowly under her fingers. You remain in the hallway, just far enough to avoid disturbing her. Her movements are hypnotic, her focus absolute. In a city where daylight is noisy and busy and filled with demands, nighttime is often the only time left for the tasks that require patience. You watch her weave for several minutes, the shuttle sliding through the warp with a soft, repetitive whisper. Eventually, she pauses and lifts her eyes. She sees you only faintly, only as a silhouette in the doorway. She nods once, acknowledging your presence with quiet acceptance. It feels like a moment suspended outside of time. You return her nod with equal softness and step back, letting the hallway darken behind you as you move toward the stairwell once more. The first floor is darker still. The workshops are closed. The air carries the faint smell of sawdust and cooled clay. Someone snores gently in a nearby room. You don't stay long on this level, only long enough to feel the heaviness of sleep settling through the building, pulling everything slowly downward, like sediment drifting in still water. You head upstairs again, back to the third floor, feeling the Insula's creaking boards beneath your feet. The sounds of the night shift subtly as you climb boards, stretching, ropes tightening, the faint flutter of fabric caught in a draft. Back in your corridor, you notice something new. A neighbor has left a tiny lamp burning outside their doorway, not because they are awake, but because they believe leaving a flame burning through the night wards off wandering spirits or brings good fortune for the morning. The flame is small, barely a flicker, but it casts a soft halo on the wall. You stand before it, watching the shadows dance lightly around its glow. The Insula feels more sacred at this hour, less like a fragile wooden building, and more like a living being with its own heartbeat, its own rhythms, its own nighttime rituals. You step into your room once more, closing the door behind you. Inside, the darkness is fuller now. The outline of your mattress is barely visible. The moonlight slicing through the shutter has thinned to a soft smear on the floor. You lie down again, the straw shifting beneath your body in a gentle whisper. Your breathing deepens, your body loosens, your thoughts drift. But the night still hasn't reached its quietest point. There is a moment just past midnight, just before true rest, when Rome seems to settle into the deepest stillness imaginable. And you feel yourself on the edge of it now. Your mind drifts in soft spirals, neither awake nor fully asleep. You hear a distant sound barely perceptible. Footsteps, slow, measured, soft enough to be mistaken for memory. They move across the rooftop, then down a stairwell 2 floors above you. You sit up gently, holding your breath. Not fearful, just curious. The footsteps pause for a long moment, then move again, lightly, across the 4th floor corridor. A watchman? A restless tenant unable to sleep? A late-night ritual of someone whose life stretches differently through the hours? You listen intently. The footsteps fade. Silence returns. You lie down again, letting the thin shadow drifting through your shutter lull you. The mattress beneath you feels softer now, as if inviting sleep. Your breathing becomes slow and regular. The Insula seems to breathe with you. Hours drip by like warm honey. You're not fully asleep, but not awake either. You float, suspended in the deep middle of the ancient night, a visitor inside a world where quiet is rare, where closeness shapes every moment, where even darkness has texture and contour. The Insula holds you gently within its wooden ribs, cradling you like one more sleeping tenant among many. Your Roman day is nearing its quietest point, and the deepest part of the night is still waiting. The night has entered its quietest hour, an hour suspended between yesterday and tomorrow, a thin, silvery sliver of time where Rome seems to hover in a dreamlike stillness. You lie on your straw mattress with your eyes half open, not fully awake and not entirely asleep, drifting peacefully at the edge of consciousness. Your breath moves slowly. Your thoughts drift gently. The air around you feels cooler now, almost cold, as if the night has reached into the Insula to reclaim every pocket of warmth. You pull the blanket closer and press your cheek against its rough wool. The texture grounds you in the present moment, but your mind floats somewhere softer, carried by the faint sounds of the building settling into sleep. A beam groans softly. A rope sways with the distant wind. A neighbor turns over below you, their mattress whispering in response. It is quiet, but never silent. Rome never sleeps entirely. It only dims itself. You close your eyes again, thinking you might drift fully into dreams. But something stirs your attention, a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a gentle pull urging you to rise once more. Not restlessness, something quieter. Curiosity shaped by the deepest hour of night. So you breathe in slowly and sit up again, letting the blanket slip from your shoulders. Your skin prickles at the cool air. You rub your arms gently to warm them, then swing your feet onto the floor. The wood is cold now, sending a tiny shiver up your legs. Your room is nearly completely dark. Only a faint smear of moonlight presses weakly through the shutter, painting a pale line across the floor. The shapes around you, your stool, the jug of water, the folded blanket at your feet, have lost their edges, becoming soft silhouettes drifting in shadow. You stand and take a moment to let your eyes adjust before stepping into the corridor. The hallway is darker than you've ever seen it. Every lamp has gone out. Not one flame remains. The air feels heavier too, filled with that warm, slightly dusty scent of sleeping bodies behind thin walls, a strangely comforting perfume when the world is as quiet as this. You move carefully, letting your fingers trail along the rough plaster to guide your steps. A faint breeze sneaks down from the rooftop, whispering through the narrow stairwell. It carries with it the coolness of the open sky, the faint smell of dew forming on clay tiles, and the far, subtle scent of the river drifting lazily through Rome. You climb toward the rooftop again, not quickly, slowly, reverently, as if ascending through layers of another person's dream. Your footfalls become nearly silent, cushioned by the worn wood of the stairs. When you reach the upper landing, you pause. The rooftop door is slightly open once more, nudged by the wind. A thin blade of moonlight slices across the floor, inviting you forward. You push the door with the gentlest pressure, and it gives without sound. The rooftop is transformed again. A sky is darker now, deeper, almost velvet. The moon has crossed further west, glowing low and wide. The stars look sharper, denser, as though someone polished them moments ago. And Rome, in this late hour, looks like a city under enchantment. So many shadows, so much quiet, so much space to breathe. You walk to the edge of the rooftop, your feet cold against the plaster. The breeze wraps around you like a loose cloak. It's gentle, carrying hints of distant fires that have begun to burn low ashes, embers, smoke. It smells faintly of olive wood, and something sweet you cannot quite place. Below, the street is mostly empty. A lone figure sits at the fountain, someone in a cloak, hunched forward, lost either in thought or in grief. They sit completely still, their presence blending with the night's muted tones. You don't stare. It feels too intimate to intrude on, even from a distance. Farther down the alley, a small group of night guards with dim torches walks past, speaking in low, bored tones. Their footsteps echo faintly off the stone as they continue out of sight. Then, a new sound. A soft fluttering. You look upward just in time to see a small flock of birds sweep silently across the moon, their silhouettes dancing briefly before dissolving into the shadows. Their wings make almost no noise, only the faintest whisper against the sky. You breathe in, then out, more deeply than before. Up here, ancient Rome feels gentle in a way you didn't expect. By day, the city feels bustling, loud, overwhelming. By night, from a rooftop, it feels like a living map, a constellation of small fires. Dim lanterns, shadowed alleys, distant temple beams glowing in the moonlight. You feel as though you've stepped into a soft painting. You sit on the low ledge, hugging your knees lightly to your chest. The cool plaster beneath you sends a faint chill through your bones, but you don't mind. The air is calming, wrapping around you like a soft lullaby. Somewhere nearby, in an adjoining rooftop, you hear soft murmuring. Not conversation more, like quiet contemplation. Someone else is awake at this hour, whispering perhaps a prayer, or simply their own thoughts into the night. You can't see them, but you feel their presence as part of the rooftop landscape, like two stars close, but not touching. You stay there for a long time, long enough for the breeze to shift again, long enough for your body to relax completely, long enough to feel the deep pulse of the city beneath you. Rome breathes beneath your feet, warm and alive even in sleep. Eventually, the night grows cooler still, and you draw your tunic more tightly around your shoulders. You stand and begin to make your way back toward the door. The Insula seems to sigh at your return, its beams soft, its shadows stretching deeper as you close the rooftop door gently behind you. Descending the stairs feels like descending into the heart of a slumbering creature. The fourth floor is utterly quiet now. No light under any door. No silhouette against the corridor walls. Only the gentle rhythm of breath behind closed shutters. You descend further to the third floor. The darkness here is comfortable, familiar. You know the soft groan of each stairboard, the subtle temperature change near your doorway, the slight bump where someone patched the plaster long ago. Even the shadows feel familiar, now almost friendly. You step back into your room and close the door. Inside, the air is cool and still. You sit on the edge of your mattress, breathing slowly. A faint silver glow leaks through the shutter, just enough for you to make out the shapes of your belongings. You lie down again, this time with a deeper sense of ease. The mattress welcomes you warmly. The straw shifts softly. You pull the blanket up to your chin and let your body melt into stillness. And for the first time tonight, you feel sleep approach gently. Your limbs grow heavy. Your breathing deepens. Your awareness softens around the edges. But before sleep claims you fully, you sense something, a subtle vibration, faint but undeniable. Someone across the corridor begins to hum. It's a low, soothing melody, barely audible, rising and falling with a slow, lulling rhythm. Perhaps someone sings their child to sleep, or comforts themselves through the quiet hours. The melody is repetitive, gentle, ancient. It drifts through the thin walls, wraps around your mind, and settles over you like a fine blanket. Your eyelids grow heavy. Your thoughts drift like dust in moonlight. The hum quiets. The building grows still again, and you drift closer to the final edge of sleep. The deepest part of night has arrived. Soon dawn will return. Soon the Insula will stretch awake. Soon footsteps will echo in the corridors once more. But not yet. For now, you float in the soft, ancient quiet, a quiet older than memory, contained in wooden ribs and plaster walls, breathing in time with a city that has seen countless nights just like this one. You drift, calmly, slowly, deeply, and Rome holds you gently through the final hours of darkness. The deepest part of night has settled over the Insula like a vast, dark cloak. You lie on your straw mattress, already halfway dissolved into the softness of your own breath, when you begin to sense something subtle shifting around you. It's not sound, it's not movement. It's the quiet itself, changing character, deepening, stretching, becoming almost warm. You lie still, letting your awareness float in that dim space where waking and dreaming blend together. Your breathing is slow now, smooth and unhurried. Each inhale feels like the cool Roman night entering your body. Each exhale feels like the weight of the day finally melting from your muscles. You shift slightly on the mattress. The blanket drapes around you like a cocoon. The straw sighs softly beneath you, reshaping itself to cradle your form. There is no hurry in this hour, no obligations, no crowds, no heat, no noise. Only the soft pulse of the ancient building around you, a living skeleton of wood and plaster embracing you through the final stretch of night. Outside your door, the corridor is completely still. No footsteps, no whispered conversations, just the faintest breath of night air creeping along the walls. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the darkness behind them expand. You try to imagine the Insula as it is now from above, a quiet stack of dreams arranged on narrow floors, each tenant wrapped in their own small world of warmth and rest. On the roof, dew is forming. On the street, shadows stretch long and silent. In the sky, the moon drifts slowly toward the horizon. Everything moves in gentle, patient rhythms. You sit up once more, not because you are restless, but because you feel gently drawn to witness one last moment of this ancient night before dawn arrives. Your limbs feel warm and drowsy. You move slowly, as if underwater, letting the blanket slip from your shoulders and pull softly at your waist. The room is faintly illuminated by moonlight sneaking through the shutter. It creates a thin silver line across the floor and leaves the rest of the space in peaceful, familiar darkness. You stand, stretch softly, and walk toward the door. The corridor welcomes you with darkness, so complete it feels almost soft. You let your fingers trace the rough plaster as you move, feeling the tiny bumps and lines carved into the wall by time. This building has sheltered thousands before you. Families, workers, travelers, children who ran through its hallways, elders who sat in doorways, humming to themselves late at night. Tonight, it shelters you. You descend the stairs slowly. Each step is a small, measured sound in the stillness. A faint creak, a soft exhale of dust, the whisper of your tunic brushing against your skin. On the second floor, you pause, listening, nothing, only a long, steady quiet. Then from far beyond the corridor, a sound so soft it barely qualifies as sound at all. The city breathing, not bustling, not shouting, just breathing. A slow inhale carried on the cool breeze, traveling through narrow Roman streets, slipping through windows, weaving around walls, settling deep into the Insula's bones. You breathe with it. You continue downward until you reach the first floor. Here the air is slightly cooler closest to the street, closest to the walls where night air filters through cracks. The workshop stands silent, transformed into resting creatures sleeping in the dark. The potter's wheel still, the carpenter's tools neatly arranged, the lamps darkened cold clay, and the smell of their work lingers like memory. Clay dust, shaved wood, faint smoke from the oils burned earlier. Even in sleep, the Insula reminds you of each life contained within it. You walk toward the street door, gently lift the wooden latch, and step outside. The night air embraces you with a cool, almost damp tenderness. It feels different out here open, wide, filled with the faint hum of a city in its deepest slumber. Above you, the moon has begun its descent, sinking low enough that its light stretches long across the walls. You walk a few quiet steps along the narrow street. Your sandals make soft, deliberate sounds against the uneven stones. Somewhere far off, perhaps near the river, a single dog barks once and then falls silent again. A faint aroma of extinguished hearths floats through the air smoke. Herbs, the last simmer of food cooling in pots. You walk toward the fountain. It glimmers in the dim moonlight, its water barely moved by the gentle trickle that continues through the night. The sound is delicate and repetitive, hypnotic in its consistency. You sit on its edge, feeling the cool stone beneath you, and lean forward just enough to watch your reflection shimmer faintly on the surface. You don't see sharp features there, only soft outlines, blurred by darkness and ripples. It makes you look like anyone who could have lived here 2,000 years ago. A tenant, a traveler, a quiet wanderer in the Roman night. You dip your fingers into the water. It's cool, smooth, soothing. You lift your hand and let the droplets slide down your wrist. They glimmer briefly in the moonlight before disappearing into your skin. You stay there for several moments, absorbing the hush of the street, the low hum of distant city breath, the soft murmur of water. But soon the night grows colder, nudging you to return to the Insula before dawn touches the sky. You stand, stretch softly, and walk back to the building. Inside, the darkness wraps around you again. You climb the stairs slowly. Your footsteps blend with the quiet. Your breathing becomes soft and regular once more. By the time you reach your floor, a faint light has begun to change outside, the slightest, most fragile shift in the quality of the darkness. The edge of dawn beginning to form, though still unseen. You step into your room. This space, once unfamiliar in the morning and noisy during the day, now feels like a comforting cocoon. You return to your mattress, the blanket still warm where you left it. The straw rustles under you in a tender, welcoming way. You lie down again. This time, your body melts fully into the bed. Your muscles let go. Your jaw softens. Your chest settles into a gentle rise and fall. Outside the shutter, the last of the night's coolness lingers. Inside, your room holds a quiet warmth, a perfect balance between the two. You close your eyes. Your breathing deepens. Your thoughts drift like dust through moonlight. You are still in Rome, still inside this towering, creaking, fragile insula. But now the city feels gentler, as if cradling you through the last hours of darkness. The faint sounds you hear now are tender ones. A whisper of wind through the shutter, the distant brush of branches, a neighbor's quiet sigh turning over in sleep. Your mind loosens. Your body grows heavier. The darkness around you becomes softer, deeper, almost warm. And the night begins to fold itself around you, calmly, slowly, completely. The Insula's walls, which held noise and heat in so many lives all day long, now hold only this, a deep, ancient quiet, and you, drifting gently into rest. The moon sinks lower. The stars fade slightly. The horizon prepares its first pale glow, but none of that disturbs you. You are floating now, somewhere between Rome and your own bed, between this ancient world and your modern breath. Safe, warm, weightless. You let yourself drift fully now. You let the quiet take you. You let the ancient city release its hold. And as your eyes grow heavier, as the last threads of thought dissolve into softness, the night closes around you like a gentle promise. You have survived a full Roman day, one filled with noise, closeness, heat, crowds, scents, textures, voices, footsteps, rituals, shadows, memories. A day that few modern people could endure. But now none of that matters. Because you are safe, you are calm. You are here, breathing softly in your own quiet world. And Rome, ancient, vast, eternal, can rest behind you. Let the darkness take you gently. Let the weight fall from your body. Let your breath slow. Sleep now. Rome can wait until morning.